Now, if you know anything about me, you know it's been a hot minute, dang near out of character, with how long it's been since I've come to the internet just to choose violence.
I say, whoever threw that paper, your mom's a hoe.
Hello friends, welcome to my corner of the internet. Welcome back to my corner of the internet. My name is Fats. We're gonna talk specifically today about the books that I had high expectations of, or books that booktube have hyped up in a way trusted booktubers, trusted book talkers had hyped up, and books that I just really wanted more from, that completely missed the mark. And let's just start with the disclaimer. My opinion of the book doesn't mean that I have a problem with you. I love you. You're my baby. But you can be right and I can be right at the same time. We all know I'm just a raging hater. Like, we know that. We all know that I walk around looking for reasons to pick a fight. I'm just a person on the internet with an opinion. An opinion. You can be right and I can be right. Let's go ahead and start this video with a DNF. I DNF'd at 30%. All of my complaints are for the first 30% of the book. If it got better at 32%, I simply did not want to continue. A third of the way through is enough of a chance to give this book. And that was Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. This was primarily due to the narrative voice and the narrator that I had to put up with. The narrator was grating. Absolutely grating. And I hate to say it, but I did this one on audiobook. And I really think that the audiobook narrator, while in character, while really coming to the stage, wanting to give this narrator a personality, it was just juvenile to have to listen to, which is also frustrating because this is marketed as an adult book when it comes off so YA. But let me tell you what it's about. Voyage of the Damned is a story of Concordia, which has finally reached peace amongst its 12 provinces. And those 12 provinces maintain peace because in the maintenance of peace, all the heirs and all the leaders of these provinces go on a voyage to the goddess's mountain and just kind of like pay respects, spend time together. It is them just showing that they exist in this peace. It is a mode of that. Our main character, though, is an illegitimate heir, and then the story becomes a murder mystery, and you're trying to get to the bottom of the mystery. That is it. It's supposed to be a murder mystery. One of the blurbs on the front jacket actually says that it's giving Agatha Christie. It was not giving Agatha Christie. It was giving poorly written TikTok sensation. Let's talk about this narration style. The way that this main character was talking to me and the way that the main character spoke was so tongue-in-cheek with their horny little banter and flirting and one-offs, and also the absolute whiny nature of this main character was repetitive and frustrating, and it just wasn't enjoyable to spend time in this head. Ganymedes, otherwise known as D, is this illegitimate heir. Now, another thing that kind of bothered me was, as an heir, or as the person in power, you inherit powers, you inherit some magic. That magic, the system of magic, isn't really explained outside of that. It is this inherited thing, and then people just are kind of cool. There wasn't a history behind it, an understanding of it. It was genuinely just, oh, here are the people that get it, and here's what they have. The way these powers are introduced and the way that the holders of these powers are introduced is very diversity bingo. You go person to person to person, and you just get this dump of information of who is who, with what powers, and how diverse they are. Because the author felt like they really just wanted to hit their bingo card of diversity throughout this. But after that, it really felt like the diverse elements of each character wasn't cared about past their introduction. Let's get to the holder of the powers. Everybody and every person that is related to a province. Like I said, 12 provinces, 12 people with powers, except for our illegitimate heir, Ganymedes, the narrator. They all are explained with each having a different hair color and then kind of stereotyped into who they were. But the concept of a province was so empty and so flat. It was just, I have this child. There were children running these provinces. There was a 14-year-old. I think there was a 6-year-old. Like they're young. They're children that are inheriting these powers, because when they inherit the power, the parent loses the power. So you have a bunch of children ruling, which was awkward to experience. But anyways, you have these provinces that I don't know much about outside of what hair color they have. And then I also had these infantile, juvenile, unorganized, just insanely annoying characters. It felt like I was within a high school, but really I was supposed to be amongst leaders. I was supposed to be amongst people who were ruling. But I got childishness in that 30% of reading. And the reason I stopped this book actually is once I got to the actual murder mystery element of things, the first murder is nobody really cares. It really feels like the murder happened and then we're still just in Ganymedes' head with his whiny monologue constantly. But the fact of it being a murder mystery and actually dealing with the mystery elements of things just wasn't highlighted at all. It happened and we're whiny and horny. That's like the only thing. We want this romance. We're this just annoying person. I can't emphasize it enough. I found Ganymedes horrible to have to listen to. And thinking about how the book would be better if I had less of my narrator, like you can't win with that. This is literally the person telling the story. If I think the book would be better without them, what is the point of me continuing? The next book that I have is We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. I love me some Emily Austen. The other books that I've read of hers, I've enjoyed, and I think I gave both of them 4 stars. But We Could Be Rats was way heavier than a lot of the other Emily's other books. And I think, just hear me out, I think that we as readers often give high ratings to heavier topics. When something is heavy and when something hits us, and because you have empathy, you're a human being, of course you're going to hear these heavy topics and feel empathy. But you're feeling that empathy because you're a human reading very heavy topics, where arguably the way this book was written and the actual stylistic choice of this book was disjointed in a way that was difficult to actually have to digest, and it hindered the storytelling rather than amplified the storytelling. So it's not to say that I didn't hear what the author was saying. It just, I know Emily Austen can write. So unfortunately, my lower rating of this came from a comparative element of how good Emily Austen writes. And then this experimental epistolary format just kind of ruined the book for me. Now, to tell you what it's about before I get ahead of myself, this story is about 2 sisters who are fraternal twins that have drifted apart. And the story itself sort of exists on the cusp of a coming of age story. It exists in this gray area in which one sister has gone off to college, and it doesn't truly pull us through this coming of age but instead holds all the pieces around a turning point, a point in a cliff to jump off of, for lack of a better way of explaining it. I do think that everybody who said this book made them cry and this book really tore them apart is due to the fact that you are dealing with some pretty intense triggers here. But the story is told in letters that jump around a timeline and jump around feelings and mask feelings and cloud around them, tiptoe around them, manipulate a feeling, and sit in an unreliability that could be purposeful, it could be accidental, it could be unconscious, subconscious. That is the tone. You jump around, you have this broken, fragmented story, which could play to the form and content in the nature of which we are talking about. Instead of my feet feeling planted on solid ground, it felt like I was treading water and just getting hit with waves and not having much to grasp onto. I was just kind of within something getting pummeled, which could work. But I would like to say, as a story that does take on a different form, it does take elements away intentionally, but it takes it away. And this is the kind of story where when I look at this piece, to have things removed from me, to have things taken from me, fragmentation, while experimental and while interesting, does make things choppier. It does chop it up. This was very choppy. It was a choppy story. Point blank period. That is what the author was doing. She chopped it, she burned a few edges, and you didn't have all the pieces. Form and content, technically, I do think it worked. In the intention thereof. Author's intention, give you a choppy fragmentation, that works. Experimentally. As a story, I do have to say that choppiness... Okay, do you see what I'm getting at? I know I'm just kind of like flinging my arms around and saying words, but do you see what I'm trying to get at? It's like when you go to a restaurant and you have somebody who serves you a taco and somebody who serves you a deconstructed experimental taco. A taco is good. That is delicious. I have all the pieces and it cohesively goes into my mouth. When I have this deconstructed experimental form, I'm grasping at the elements that could make it up. I'm grasping at the flavors that could make it up. I'm grasping at textures that make this up. But it takes it away from what a taco is. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it is delicious. It does do what it does, but arguably I do have to sit back and I do have to look at this deconstructed experimental taco and go, okay, this was good. But in the world of good tacos, this isn't something that I would list as a good taco. That's how I feel about it. I'm sorry. It is heavy. Check the trigger warnings. Next book was a DNF at 7%. And that is Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Pittier. This author said that she wrote this book because of her love of the story of The Little Mermaid. And the beginning of this book was copy and paste The Little Mermaid. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. Even from her finding a little trinket and not knowing the name of it, seeing the prince on the seaside, it was copy and paste The Little Mermaid at the beginning. And I hate to say it. It's a little obvious with the fact that we decided to write a book and copy and paste another idea. It's a little obvious that our author is a full-time professional Sims player. Somebody had to say it. Somebody had to say it. And I'll be the person that says it. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to say anymore. I said what I said. And it's the truth. Did I say anything wrong? Did I say anything wrong? She is a professional Sims player. And I see that. Oh, but is there anything wrong said there? No, just the truth. Read between the lines if you want to. Okay. We have reached the point of the video where I just need to make you pinky promise that we're still gonna be friends after the next 2 books that I need to tell you about. Oathbound by Tracy Dion was easily my biggest disappointment of the year. Easily my biggest disappointment. Now, if you don't want spoilers or you plan to read the book soon, skip ahead. Skip to the next book, come back to this video later, just bookmark me. If you've already read it, please hang out. I am going to give you a couple of seconds to make that decision now. There are chapters in the description box. They're also at the bottom of your screen, and you can just scroll right on past the Oathbound section because I've got so much to say. Because mind you, so in my little notebook, right, I have this much to Voyage of the Damned, this much to We Could Be Rats, this much to Voice of the Ocean, and this much to Oathbound. This book had middle book syndrome. It had middle book syndrome. It had middle book syndrome. Let me explain what middle book syndrome is. When you have a trilogy, usually the first book comes out swinging. And then the middle book acts as nothing more than a setup for the final book. This book had a version of middle book syndrome where truly nothing happened. Nothing happened. Not a single thing. It so little happened. It was painful for me to read it. And it was so long for nothing to be happening. Now, I don't necessarily have things in order. I just have a list of frustration. So let's just work one by one into all the things that bothered me. I said pacing and the passage of time. We have this, like, months are going by. Time is passing by during this story. And I was so discombobulated because Bree is over here just learning stuff. She's just learning stuff. We'll get to that in a second about how that kind of annoyed me. And we have people searching, and they're on this journey to search. But the glimpses that I was given in each POV, I didn't feel the passage of time other than being told about the passage of time. Because since nothing was happening, everything could have felt like it happened in like a day or two. Because little action was occurring. But then I was told that like a good chunk of time had passed, and I'd be like, okay, what? How? What have we been doing? What is going on? Even like Cell, the fact that I got so little from Cell's point of view, I just couldn't grasp what was going on with him and his mom, or like how much time was passing between him like escaping his room. Weird. Hated it. It felt as if Tracy was trying to establish this community, these lines, this web, this connection of persons around Bree. And really honing in on these feelings of Bree isn't just singular. She has those people around her. She has her found family. It felt like it was trying to build that, but very poorly. Very poorly. This book kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It felt like I was so invested in the first book and the second book that I didn't notice what Tracy wasn't doing. But then when I had a slower book and I wasn't just in love with my characters, it really brought to light the lack of world building, first off, and the absolutely poorly written dialogue. It just kind of brought to light that these things were never that great. But what made it great and what made the story great were my characters. What was my story? When I lost the story of things, what was left just simply wasn't great. I wrote like 3 times that nothing happened because that made me so angry. Oh my goodness. Let's talk about let's talk about Nick and Bree. This I don't know you, but I still want you lusty romance. I think that the story was meant to make me feel like they were soulmates, when really it felt icky. It felt icky for this to be deduced into like a very physical nature. This, I need you and I know how to make you feel and I know how to kiss you and oh, I know you're about like all of that. But like, I don't know you. Something about that made me feel gross. I think I was supposed to feel one of those, no matter where we are in the world and no matter where we are at in life, I'll always know you kind of thing. I felt gross. I felt icky. I didn't like it. I didn't like how this mystery of the missing Merlins, the dead Merlins, wasn't handled. Tracy Deonn was doing this thing where she was like throwing out plot points, but not following through. The missing Merlins was a big one. I also feel like the way that the root crafter trafficking was handled was very empty. We had this goal of finding this one girl. Bree was focused on finding this one girl. But the bigger element of this just wasn't talked about, wasn't discussed, wasn't handled, wasn't worked through. It was, oh, let's look for this one girl. Hated that. Another one of those plot points that could have been bigger, really could have been discussed, really could have been worked through, really could have been character development for our main character, but instead was just thrown in and then handled. Don't talk to me about Alice. Don't talk to me about it. Don't talk to me about it. That decision, don't talk to me about it. And the thing that was weird about it was, usually in these kind of moments, I am hurt for the loss of a character. I'm hurt at these decisions. I wasn't necessarily hurting and I wasn't necessarily missing and I wasn't necessarily feeling for this character. I just felt such a deep-rooted sense of I couldn't care anymore about what this book has to do. This book just kept doing things and I was just like, I genuinely can't bring myself to care anymore. That decision, I was like, okay, whatever. Another hard Bree decision. I just have gotten really over it. And to speak of that, another hard Bree decision, I felt odd about how Bree was just this overpowered, perfect, strong, infallible human. All the decisions she makes are like, oh yeah, Bree has to make that. Let's be understanding of Bree. Oh yeah, Bree had to cut that line. Oh yeah, it's hard for Bree. I get that it's hard for Bree. I get it. I hear you. Her soul is missing because of an action she took. Her soul is missing because of something she did. Her soul is missing because of her. She did that. I do think that was a point of self-reflection rather than a point of outward anger. Oh, the Demon King is so bad because he did this. No, you did this. You made this decision. I don't think that responsibility was really held for Bree. And on the overpowered element of things, she went to this demon guy to learn how to use her powers. And it was just like, man, you're so strong. She was like, yeah, I'm that bee. And then was just so strong. And then we jumped forward in time and she was just so strong. In the first book, Bree had to work hard through like the trials. Bree had to work hard to get to where she was, and she earned every element of what she was fighting for. In this book, it was really just, even from people just calling her, what did he call her? What did that one guy call her? The powerful girl, all powerful, super strong. Like, he called her something where it was just emphasizing that Bree is just this overpowered human and the pedestal that they've put her on. And I get that that could play into me discussing like the pedestal other people put on and how Bree has to deal with that. But it felt like the book was writing to put her on a pedestal, because even Bree's goals, what were her goals? Be untouchable, unstoppable, and impervious. That didn't feel like a moment of self-growth at all. I saw no growth from Bree. She started this and was like, I'm going to be untouchable. And it's just like, okay, how about we sit down and we talk about the fact that like, you're a human. What are these wants? What is this? And she just worked her way through the story trying to become untouchable and unstoppable. The human elements and what I liked about Bree and the realness of her just kind of left the chat. Other points that were thrown in there and then just absolutely not handled. Like the demon court, anything to do with that? Hello, you guys. This is politics that need to be built. This is something to be understood. You're just going to throw this kind of out there and then just like let me gallivant along? Like we're just done with it? We're just going to throw that in there? Cell's demonia? We're just going to throw that in there and like not think about that. It was like, oh, you may not be able to help him. It's like, don't worry. He's got a crown now. Like these things, like Cell is falling into his demonia. And then he sniffs Bree and he's like, you're a little different. Don't like that. I'll be back later. Like that was it. Like, what? What? The twins. Throwing them in and trying to understand who they were, how they worked into this, what they were doing, anything about them, nothing. It felt as if my characters were so real to me and so palpable to me in the first couple books to be flat in this book. I got a flatness in my characters this book, which was odd because I actually was in their point of view in this book, but they were stripped of everything that I liked about them. Oh my goodness. The fake marriage trope being brought into this book. Like, what was the point of that? What were we doing here? Why? Oh, that, like, when I started getting fake marriage trope and the way that this romance was trying to be, like, highlighted here, I was over it. I was so tired of this book. I was just so tired of it. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? The days we spent at the auction, what was accomplished? In the way that as the story went along, so I came into this series, I'm invested in my characters. I love my characters. This book hit me in a lack of investment that when Cell was revealed as the heir to the crown, I could not bring myself to like feel shock, feel like this was something crazy and I need to get to the next book. When this book ended, I didn't get that reveal and want more and need more and need to continue. When this book ended, all I felt was, this better not be more than 4 books. This next book better be the last. I don't want 5. I don't want 6. I don't want 7. I need this to be 4 and done. 4 and done. That's it. Ugh. I needed it to end. I stopped caring. I just... My gosh. Tracy. Girl, did you just need the money? Did you just need the money? I get that. Get your bag. Get your bag. I support Black businesses. But at the same time, like, the next time you want to get your bag, let a girl know. We have made it to the last book. The last one. I had to literally, like, after screaming about Oathbound, I had to step away. I had to drink a little bit of water. I had to hydrate. I had to bring my energy down. And I also had to emotionally prepare myself to maybe lose at least one more friendship in this. To tell you about how The Secret History by Donna Tartt did not live up to the hype for me. Don't get me wrong. This was a very middle of the road book for me. It wasn't offensive to me. It didn't necessarily make me angry. It was a really inoffensive book. And I can see that it acts as the blueprint for a lot of dark academia books. I could see that. It just didn't quite hit. But let's get into it. Now, structurally, with this book, you have this satire on academia, but then put it on the tracks of a Greek tragedy and the way that that is absolutely structured, the way that that absolutely falls apart. That's what this book is. That's what this book wants to have done. Let's start with the characters. Lukewarm at best. For me to spend so much time with these people, I still felt as if I had so little of them. They were very tepid in nature. It just felt like Camilla, for example, she was thrown in for the, you know how in so many of the Hollywood movies, they have this romance subplot. Everybody wants a romance subplot. Camilla was just a romance subplot. That was it. It felt like, oh, I need to add something. It didn't feel like I added a character. I didn't add Camilla. I added a romance subplot. You see what I'm saying? Like how these characters felt like they were included. These characters they weren't the point of the book. Okay, so I felt that first. I felt like the reason I was here, the reason I was reading this satire, it wasn't character driven. Okay, so must be plot driven. I'll get to that in a second. In it being plot driven, right? That means we should spend a lot of time formulating this plot, right? We should spend a lot of time making sure this plot is chef's kiss, because it's not a character-driven story, because these characters weren't given the oomph, the weight, the depth that they needed to not feel so flaccid. And then pacing didn't give me what it needed. The pacing let me down. Because so the climax came around halfway. And then from there, the book was just a collection of like messy telenovela plots. That was it. It didn't feel like I had these themes and I had this thought. The concept of it being satire felt like it fell to the wayside for drama. I love drama. I love it. But as a satire, as a discussion of academia, that theme and that intent fell to the wayside because Donna Tartt just wanted to muse and write and wax poetic. Is it beautifully written? Yes, I'm not going to take that credit away from it. I had these characters that just fell limp through my story. And then I had a story that couldn't pace itself through its own intentions. When we talk about narration, there was a pomp to this story, of course, but the narration style added to the pomp of the story, there was a lack of cohesion there. In the themes, in dark academia, there's a humidity to that. There is an aspect where these elements are bloated. They're weighty. They're heavy. They're dusty, they're waterlogged. That's what these themes are. Donna Tartt came for airy, litvic, though. She gave an airiness that didn't fit what my story was. So narration style didn't quite come into cohesion with this. I see, looking at this from how you write and what you're doing with words themselves, the airy, litfic, genfic nature of Donna Tartt is lovely in that I can see how she paved the way for litfic today. However, in the way that this story is structured, in the way that we're playing to Greek tragedy, in the way that we're playing to satire, the tone and narration style with my plot, with my pacing, all of these things sort of spiraled around each other while not quite meeting. There were moments actually where it felt as if they butted against each other, like opposing magnets, but that would make them the same sign, right? So like opposing, not like plus minus opposing, but like plus plus opposing. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? I also would like to say that in the narration style, first, not meshing with the bloat of my topics, add that to the melodrama. All these things in together created such dissonance. This was a dissonant story. It was dissonant. At the end of the day, it was beautifully written. But these chords clashed. My instrument was out of tune. It didn't quite come together in a way that I would say would feel seamless, would feel well, fully fleshed out and run through the ringer of editing. And I wish it did, because it could have done so much more. Donna had moments in the story where she was writing just because she wanted to write, where could be argued forming content, the discussions of academia and trying to play into that. And then you have an author who is just writing to write and sort of flowing through. I wouldn't call this purple prose. It wasn't very purple. I did feel that it was lilting. There was a musicality, but it wasn't purple. I bring that up because I remember somebody telling me they liked the purple prose. This wasn't quite purpled. It wasn't quite there, which another thing, if I got a purpling of this prose, or what could have been interesting, Donna Tartt started this story in that sort of airy mist of writing that she was doing. And then if we could see this transition into that sodden purple prose, the way purple prose drags, the way that it sometimes can be difficult, it can be a mouthful, it can feel like peanut butter at the roof of your mouth, the way that I needed that. It was beautiful. It was beautiful in a way that was digestible. But when we're discussing the satire behind academia, that airiness, that's my biggest issue. I really think that this book could have been taken further if there was intent in my narration style. I think that hindered it. It hindered it. Just looking at it from a technical stance bothers me. It bothers me. I wanted a stuffiness to it. I wanted this to feel like one of those bookstores that almost seem as if they have no organization to them. That's what I wanted from this. But I didn't get that. I wanted rot. I wanted decay. I wanted and all of that in the narration style. Beautiful writing though. Goodness, this book is so beautifully written. I also feel like the self-importance of the writing. There was a self-importance that I was iffy on. Honestly, my biggest qualm is in construction. I'm going to be honest. The story and the satire did it. And technically I did it in a satire. I guess I don't need the characters to feel fully done. I guess in pacing, I can ignore it. Whatever. But the construction around the words and phrases and how we wrote this is my biggest problem in this book. I just finished this one. I was at first planning on doing a longer video of The Secret History. Like I've done a lot of my other like more classic deep dives, but this wasn't one of those books. This isn't a deep dive kind of book, I didn't feel like, which was interesting as well, because as something that plays into satire and plays into Greek tragedy, I should feel like I can make a 45-minute video talking about it. I should feel that way, but I didn't from this. This felt recreational, which could work. I don't know. I'm a little split on it. It just kind of let me down though. It let me down. I had high hopes for it. Because it's really lauded as this, it's a classic for us at this point. People talk about it like it's a classic, and it didn't hit those marks. So it just was a bit of a letdown. It did just let me down a little bit. Not a bad book. I just think that the pedestal it's been put on in that new age classic kind of thing isn't quite warranted. But that's all I have for you. In the comments, please let me know if you love these books or if I'm just missing the mark. Also, let me know about some of your recent disappointments. I'm nosy. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you're reading good books. I hope that wherever you are living is not 98 degrees. Texas is absolutely dragging me. Yeah, let me know how your reading's going. Let me know about your recent disappointments. I'm here for a little bit of rant and a rave. We all know I like to talk that shh. I'm gonna talk to you next time.